this, I don't know, this just like worked perfectly for me. Elizabeth Taylor. And then it just hit me. I was looking back through books that I read on Goodreads and it just hit me. The perfect book for actually romantic is... Hey everybody, I'm Kristen. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to give you a TBR of a Showgirl. I've matched 12 books to the 12 songs of the Life of a Showgirl album by Taylor Swift. So whether you're a big Taylor Swift fan or you are just looking for some new books to add to your TBR, you have come to the right place. Let's get started. So I did go out of order with the songs just because I thought it might be a little more fun that way, because if I did the songs in order, you would know exactly what song to expect next. So I did put the songs out of order, just to be difficult. So the first song that we're going to start with is Canceled. Good thing I like my friends. Okay, so for Canceled, I went with If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. And I read this book several years ago, but it is fantastic. It's about 7 friends who go to an elite college where they are all studying like theater, and they're all obsessed with Shakespeare, like to the point where they're constantly quoting Shakespeare throughout the book. They're also obsessed with each other. They're almost like a little family, and they really don't even like people outside of their little group. And there's parties and romance and secrets and obsession, and then of course there's a murder. And it's a great book, but I matched it with Canceled because everybody in this book deserves to be canceled, first of all. All 7 of our main characters are a little bit terrible in some way, some more than others. But just like the aspect of the really close friend group who would lie for each other and cover up for each other, even when they are fighting and hate each other. Also, like all of the Shakespearean stuff throughout the book also made me think like, that was such a good connection with Taylor Swift. Even though there's not really like Shakespeare connections with this particular song, we know that there's a lot with this album. So I don't know, it kind of fits for me with Canceled. All right, number 2, we are going with Father Figure next. Father Figure is the song that on my first listen of the album, it stuck out the most to me, and it was my favorite track for like 48 hours straight. So for Father Figure, I picked 6 of Crows, and more specifically, Kaz Brecker from 6 of Crows. I don't know, I can totally see the first 2 parts of the Father Figure song being like Pekka talking to Kaz, and then the ending part of the song being Kaz finally like getting to say his piece and like really sticking it to Pekka. So I don't know, it works perfectly. So the number 3 song is Fate of Ophelia. And for this one, I went with Guild by Raven Kennedy. So really, the whole Plated Prisoner series, if you don't know, Guild starts off with the main character, Arin. She lives in a golden cage in King Midas's castle, and she is his friend and lover and confidant, and she's also not treated very well at all by him. It's mostly books 2 and 3, Glint and Gleam, that really made me think it would fit well with Fate of Ophelia. And I do have to say, even though Arin really does like rescue herself, the rescue would not have come to pass if it wasn't triggered by the love interest in the story, in the series coming about. These are the parts of the song that made me think of the Guild series. If you'd never come for me, I might have drowned in the melancholy. Okay, so Arin is pretty heavy into the wine in the first book and realizing like how terrible her life is. So, and then all that time I sat alone in my tower, aka her gilded golden cage, and you were just honing your powers. Yes, the love interest in this series has some powers. Some of the songs were harder to match up with a book that I've actually read than others, but this, I don't know, this just like worked perfectly for me with Arin and our love interest for the series, whose name I'm not saying in case that's a spoiler for people that haven't read the books. All right, the 4th song that we're gonna do is Eldest Daughter. So for Eldest Daughter, I don't think this song hits me as hard as some people. It's not the heaviest, most emotional track 5 for me, but the bridge like really gets me. The rest of the song is great, but that bridge That really gets me every time. So this one I kind of struggled with finding a match for, but I went with Hunger Games, all because of Katniss. Katniss is the eldest daughter. She's Prim's oldest sister. And this part of eldest daughter like really made me think of Katniss. But I'm never gonna let you down. I'm never gonna leave you out. So many traitors, smooth operators. And then later in the song where she says every oldest daughter was the first lamb to the slaughter, we know that like Katniss chose to take Prim's place. She was the lamb to the slaughter in the Hunger Games. And then it says, so we all dressed up as wolves and we looked fire, which makes me think of when they all dress up in the parade thing, when they're presented as the final tributes to the Capitol, and they're all wearing like these amazing outfits, and then Katniss's outfit literally bursts into flames, into fire. So I don't know, that just worked really well. Plus it's kind of like a slow and intentional and serious and emotional song, and that kind of fits with the vibe of like all the Hunger Games movies. So, all right, the fifth song is Wish List, one of my personal favorites on the album that does not get enough love in my opinion. For Wish List, I actually went with a book I literally just finished a few days ago, and that is Burning Daylight by Emily McIntyre. I do have to say that I am mostly a fantasy reader. You're probably noticing the majority of the songs on this list are in fact fantasy books. This one is a contemporary romance, and that is not usually my cup of tea, but I loved this book. I loved the characters, and if you don't know, this is a modern retelling of Romeo and Juliet. Our main characters, Roman and Juliet, are from rival rich families with kind of like, I don't really want to say like a mob-esque mentality, but like a little bit like that. They all live in this smallish town together, and the town is really controlled by these two families who are absolute enemies and despise each other. And of course, that represents our two families, the Montagues and the Capulets from the original Romeo and Juliet, which again brings us back around to Shakespeare, which is also why I picked this, because the Shakespeare connection to this Taylor Swift album worked out perfectly. But really I matched this book for this song because I feel like all the things that Taylor is saying, and in like, especially like the first two verses, when she's listed things like other people want, they are like the things that Juliet's family, like her parents and her brothers want, and even Roman's family, they're the things that everybody else wants, you know, like the yacht life and the expensive clothes and the luxury items, and she's listing like all these things that everybody else wants. But what do Roman and Juliet want? They just want each other. They just want to be left alone and be happy, which is kind of the theme of Wish List. Okay, next we are going to match a book with Elizabeth Taylor. So for this song, a book immediately screamed at me, and I did so much research to try to find another book that I've read to say for this song instead of this book, because I just felt like this was like too obvious. But in the end, I decided to go for it. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. There is just nothing that I've actually personally read that fits Elizabeth Taylor better than this book. She's very much like a model for the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Obviously, even though there's a lot different about the Evelyn Hugo character in the book from the real life Elizabeth Taylor, obviously that was like a big piece of inspiration for Taylor Jenkins Reid. Plus the author has the same first name as Taylor Swift, so, you know, it was just kind of, it was hard. It was hard to not go with this book for this song. I mean, the extravagant life, the being married so many times, and having like your one true love this whole time, and yeah, so Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. All right, next we're gonna do Actually Romantic, and this one I struggled with for a really long time, and then it just hit me. I was looking back through books that I read on Goodreads, and it just hit me. The perfect book for Actually Romantic is Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I know it's not exactly what the lyrics of Actually Romantic are talking about, but it is so perfect because Jude and Carden, the two main characters, really truly hate each other at the beginning of the book. And there's a lot of like really great one-liners between Carden and Jude, and I mean there's a reason it's called Cruel Prince. Like Carden is the cruel prince in this book. Like he is mean, and it just fits so well because, as you know, whether you've read the story or not, you can tell from the synopsis, Jude and Carden are our love interests that are eventually going to find their way to each other. And it just fits so well with the lyrics of Actually Romantic. Even the vibe of like, you know, stop saying all those nasty things because it sounds like you're flirting with me. That's so Jude and Carden coded. It's perfect. All right, so the 8th song from the album that we're gonna match a book with is The Life of a Showgirl, and I actually had the book that I picked for this matched up with another song, and when I thought about it, it just went so much better with The Life of a Showgirl, and that is Legendborn by Tracy Dion. So Taylor Swift had said kind of recently in an interview that The Life of a Showgirl is about when you're getting into the industry, people that have been doing it longer might kind of talk down to you and try to talk you out of wanting to be a part of it. And it's about like kind of choosing like, no, this is the life I want to have and I can handle this and pushing through yourself. And I feel like that really describes Brie in Legendborn, in especially the first book, but really like all of them, to be perfectly honest. There's like all of the condescending people in the Legendborn secret society that don't want Brie to be like part of the Legendborn because she's a girl, because she's black, because she's not a part of like, you know, the families that have been part of the secret society for years and years. And by the end of the first book in the Legendborn series, Brie is a full-blown showgirl, and I really can't say anything more about it than that. If you've read the book, you know what I mean. All right, next we are going to match a book with Opalite, Dancing Through the Lightning Strikes. Okay, so I'm not even going to like beat around the bush. For this song, I matched Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. I'm sorry, that's completely unoriginal, but excuse me, the Onyx Knight, Onyx Storm, Xaden's powers, the fact that Violet refers to Xaden using the word onyx about 732 times in the 3 books that we have so far in the series. Dancing Through the Lightning Strikes, when Violet's power is lightning? Well, it's not really exactly lightning, but you know what I'm saying, and you know what I mean. Plus, oh yeah, also the part about where Taylor is kind of singing to Travis in the second verse about like his previous relationship, that kind of lines up so perfectly with Xaden's previous relationship with Kat, which was like, you know, it was what it was. I wasn't even gonna be bothered to try to match this up with any other book. Opalite is Fourth Wing. Okay, next we are matching a book with Honey, and we are matching Honey with probably what you are gonna find a really odd choice, and that is Butcher and Blackbird by Bryn Weaver. I love these books. This is another one of the few books on this list that is not actually a fantasy book, but I love all of the books in this series. This is a serial killer romance, comedy, sexy love story. Why did I match Honey up with a serial killer romance? Okay, so Sloane, our main female character, is very closed off, and her and Rowan start as rivals. They're rival serial killers, as you do, and then they become friends, and they compete in this serial killing competition every year as friends, and then they become lovers. And believe it or not, if you haven't read this book, it is actually very sweet. From rivals to friends to lovers it's a very sweet story that happens to have a lot of smexy times and a lot of serial killing in it. One of the things that happens throughout Rowan and Sloane's romance is that Sloane starts to like open up more to Rowan. Rowan is kind of the sunshine and Sloane's kind of the grumpy. So I don't know. I was looking through books and I just thought Honey is Butcher and Blackbird. Do with that what you will. All right, we only have 2 songs from The Life of Showgirl left, and one of them is Ruin the Friendship, and I am so sorry for this, but I'm gonna match up Assassin's Blade If you've read the Throne of Glass books, and especially Assassin's Blade, you know that this is technically a group of 5 prequel novellas to the Throne of Glass series. It's heavily debated which order you should read them in. I am hugely in the camp of not reading them first because I don't think they'll have the emotional impact if you read them before everything else. I think you should read them third, which is also when the author Sarah J. Maas thinks you should read them. But I digress. Ruin the Friendship. That's Selena and Sam's song. And if you know, you know. If you have read, like, I don't know, 2 seconds of any Throne of Glass book, you know about Sam, you know about Selena and Sam's relationship, and you know what happened with Sam, and why I picked Assassin's Blade for Ruin the Friendship. Moving on. Okay, the last song is Wood, which I paired up with Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. Why did I pair this up? This was the hardest song, pun intended, to pick a book for. I kept thinking, do I lean into like the sexier lyrics? Do I go with the superstitious stuff? And in the end, I had a really hard time picking a song for Wood. And what really kind of got me in the end was the line about wishing on a star. I kept looking at the books I've personally read for something that had to do with luck or superstitions, and believe it or not, I really didn't have anything. However, I chose the book Phantasma because it does have to do with making a wish, and it does have to do with you're searching for something that you really, really want by way of magic, which is kind of what a lot of the lyrics in Wood are about. Plus, there's a lot of smexy times. So that's why I saved this one for last, because it was actually the absolute hardest song to pick a book for, personally. All right, so we did it. You now have 12 books that match the 12 songs from The Life of a Showgirl by Taylor Swift. Let me know in the comments below if you have read any of these books, or have you thought of some books that you think are better picks for these songs than mine? Let me know. As always, if you liked the video, make sure you click on that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any more of my videos. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.